Alright, so let me tell y'all a little story or a fun fact about me. You know, a lot of y'all that know me, I was born in Cameroon, Africa, and I moved here to the United States when I was just a little kid. And my first couple of years here, just being in the States, I was a depressed kid, coming from Africa to America. And reason why I felt so depressed was simply because of how I was treated by other black kids that I was going to school with. From not even understanding why why they really treated me that way. I didn't understand until I became older, and I realized it was really a self hate thing in the programming that a lot of black people have been conditioned while being in this country. But when I was younger during that time, and I was having to experience other black kids just call me types of names and make fun of me because of where I'm from, saying I'm living with lions and cheetahs and interacting with different types of monkeys and and whatever, all these crazy stuff. Worse than that, being called an African booty scratcher, all that stuff. I didn't understand like why I was catching so much hatred from other people who looked like me. I didn't understand it, so I became a depressed kid, and I said, and I remember I used to say to myself like I don't get why you know people hate me for being who I am and coming from where I came from. You know, back home in Cameroon, I used to be the kid that all the other kids wanted to be around. Wherever I went, I was always welcome. Like a lot of like adults, teachers, business people, whoever, back home, treated me with prestige. And I didn't realize why that was until I became older. But back then, that was just a normal thing for me as a kid. And then here it was a complete 180, a complete turnaround from being the kid that all the kids like, all the kids want to be friends with, to now being the kid that people are treating like as dirty or something, or they got some type of disease and are constantly talking about you. I mean, of course, like throughout my years of growing up in America, developing as a kid, I adjusted, and I started to accept a lot of things, and I became accustomed to the American culture or traditions and whatnot. But through my development stages and me just having to adjust to being in America, that made me it made me like have a silence, and I really didn't say much about the things I was thinking or how I felt, because I had put in my mind that what I say or how I felt didn't matter, all because of those couple of years of first being in America. And I realized like the tremendous impact that's had on my life, all the way up to now with me as an adult. And honestly, like in these past recent years is actually when I've been able to start opening up more and saying a lot more to people. But like I've always been the type of guy that lay back, chill, and just always observing. And people tend, and that was one of the things that I like a lot of my friends liked about me, was that I was just always laid back, and I was always been a cool type of dude, you know. But I realized, like, me just having that silence all throughout my years of growing up in America, it came way back from being traumatized as a kid when I first moved to America. You know, so that's just a little fun fact about me. I'm gonna speak more about this, but right now I'm gonna just keep it at that. Catch y'all later.